This video is not for persons under the age of 13. By watching this video, you are declaring that you are above 13 years of age. Hello and welcome to today's watercolor painting. As you can see from the reference image up here and the drawing, we're doing a cat today, and as cats do, they like to get everywhere, don't they? And this particular cat thinks it's okay to just stand on a freshly laid out table that looks as though it's going to have some sort of meal on it at some point. It's got an interesting background that is blurred out, which brings a lot of focusing on this area, so we'll make a start of it. The paper I'm using today is a bit unusual. It's Stonehenge by Legion. It's unusual in the sense that it's hot pressed, and I usually use cold press, and this one with hot press, I normally associate that with £90, but this is £140, so I've never actually used any of this before, so we'll see how that goes. The paints that I'm using today are my White Nights paints that I use on a fairly regular basis, and I don't know whether I'll use all of these brushes, but there's a quick look at the brushes that I might be using. So let's wet the background, and I want to try and avoid these little buds here and there. Don't want it on them if I possibly can. I'm not being too delicate because I've only got a certain amount of time available to get this right, so I'm gonna work my way around that as best I can, and again there as well. Right, so I've got round that area as best I can, and then we're gonna avoid the cat if we can, and I still want that to be wet by the time I get back round all this area with the water. So I'm doing well. You just have to keep, if it starts getting a bit dry, you just have to keep wetting it till you've got everything wet to a reasonable degree, and it looks as though I'm not far off that. We just got this bit here up here to do. Obviously it can buckle when you put in large amounts of water like that, so you do have to be careful. Mine are pinned down, as you can see, with little bulldog clips. So that's ready now. Now the reason why I've done that is because I'm going to do a very blurred background, and I'll use my small hake brush now, and I'm going to try and get a grey colour if I can possibly get it. Shouldn't be too hard. I just mix several different colours together and they all neutralise. So I've got myself, I don't think that's strong enough at the moment, so I'll get a bit more. A bit more colour in there. There we go, we've got a grey we can work with now. and just gonna, again, I'm trying my best to avoid the areas that are in the foreground, i.e. the vase and the cat, so I don't want that to be blurry. So hopefully once we've got past this point we can be a bit more free. There we go. And that's that area done. Now we're going to go a bit more aggressive in the centre. So I'm going to mix up a blue and a dark brown, and that will make a very, very dark blue. I'm going to put a bit more brown in that. There we go. So I think I might have a touch of red in it. And this here is a window, so I'm gonna, again, it's a matter of trying to work around that white area. It don't matter, you can actually go over it later with some gouache if you've missed it, but I want this mostly to be a fairly consistent block of colour, but fuzzed out. So I'll pick up some more colour like that. And the floor itself, I'll do a line that goes like that, and there we go. So what I need to do now is let this dry, and we'll see if we can go back over, although I do want to see if I can get rid of that bit there. In fact, actually all of that I'm going to just give a bit of a dab to, and while we're at it I'll probably texturise that a little bit as well. There you go. So there's a definite differentiation between the wall and the glass window. So we'll let this dry and then we'll move on. Now it's dried to some extent, we'll see if we can block in the basic colour for the table, a kind of burgundy browns. But what I will do first is put an undertone of like a yellow ochre colour. Don't necessarily have to be yellow ochre, it can be some similar kind of colour, like I believe that's gold ochre, which is not that dissimilar. I'm mixing it in with a little bit of this grey to tone it down a bit, and I think I'll put the brown in now. So I'm going to get a bit of burnt umber away from it, and then yeah, it's a mild brown colour, and we just want to making sure I'm going to go right in there, because that is still part of, even though that will be in shade later, I'm still going to paint that area in. And a little bit there. And there's also shadows as well in there that we'll paint in a lot later. And it comes to about there, and then that then turns into like a tablecloth, you know, one of those that they put out for decorative purposes when you have a party. And then we've got that bit there. So that's the undercolour for the actual real colour. That'll be like a burgundy brown. I've allowed for this area of the table to dry sufficiently so it won't bleed, because I'm going to do this like carpet, well, not carpet but floor area. And it's as you look at the reference image, it's like a grey blue, so I've got some grey down. So what I want to do is put a bit of a transparent blue in there, and again I'm going to mix it in with some of that residual grey that we had, because I don't want it, I want the background colours to be fairly muted. There aren't any extremely strong colours in this particular painting apart from the red vase, and even that I'm going to make that quite transparent and muted, so it's in keeping. The cat itself is a bit muted, although I want to put quite a bit of detail in that to make sure that you know that that's the key feature of the painting. So make sure that we don't make it look as though it's like halo round it. And I might see if I can put lines in it like that. And again, same thing here, because that is still part of the floor. And that's another layer done in that area. We might go over it with another grey tone at some point. But I don't want to overwork the background. It needs to be quite push back that as much as I possibly can, and the more paint you put on it, the more it'll come forward. Something that I need to think about when doing this is the floor is a little bit reflective, so it is, there are certain areas that are giving off reflection, so while it's wet still I'll indicate certain areas that might have a bit of reflection showing, and I'll leave that to dry for a bit. The background's dried enough for me to be able to put another layer on it, so we'll do that. I'll get some of this that's already made up for us, and I think I'll add a bit of red to that. There you go, and it makes a nice neutralised dark deep colour. And I'll just do that area there. Maybe that's a bit strong, it might be, I don't know. Let's have a look. And I'll just add a bit of texture. And the background is almost done, really. What I do want to do is get a stronger set of colours. So again, I'm going to do that. Get a dark there, then get a brown, and some more blue, and it does make a really nice, almost black, without it being too black. So we've got that ready to go, and at the bottom of the window it seems to be an awful lot darker, so I'm going to be very careful about doing that area, and then it kind of fades down, and then like comes into there. I'm going to let that blend into there. And there seems to be a bit of a reflection there. I'm going to bring that dark area over to here, avoiding the cat and this vase, which is not easy, this area. Just take your time about it. What I want to do before these start drying is make sure that that's all softened in a little bit. Get some more water and soften it even more. And then up here there's a little area of darkness as well. And we'll do exactly the same at this side as well. That area there looks pretty dark. Avoiding the cat again. To about that area. Just working around outer edge of it, of the cat. Right, soften that edge with just adding water to it, so it ain't got that very hard edge. And again, some more water above that bit that you've done, and then it's all blended in then to a reasonable degree. At the top of that again, there's a little bit of the idea that that's darker as well. See if I can soften that edge as well. That's coming on nicely. I'll just indicate that because it's reflective that that's slightly darker, I think we're getting to the stage with the just need a little bit that I forgot there. By the way, this paper, I've not used it before. It's hot press, £140 by Stonehenge, and I'm liking it actually. It's really nice. I can see why you would want to use it. Not got enough experience yet with this kind of paper to say, oh, do this or do that, but I'm enjoying the experience. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this, but it's nice. While we've got a little bit of this slightly blue still. We said that this were like a tablecloth, but although it's white, it's very rare in art that you'll find something that's completely white. So I'm gonna add a teeny little bit of discoloration to it. It'll still come out and register white when we've done, because I'm going to put lots of dark things around it. So again, it's a matter of this being left to dry for a bit, and that's what we'll do, and we'll come back when we've got a nice dry surface. We'll go back to the table now and put the colour that's going to be the top layer on, and we want this to be a little bit dry brush, but we want a burgundy red. So I'm going to get a brown, and then I'm going to get one of the reds, you know, the ones that are probably closer to a purplier colour, a more bluer red, if you want to call it that, and we'll keep adding brown back to it till we get it to the kind of burgundy that we're happy with. And this, I want it to be really almost stripy. So I'm going to dab a bit off on my dab rag, and then and we can even in this area, because although it's going to get covered over that with a dark shadow, it helps with the continuation of the actual paint. It don't look as though it's abruptly stopped. And I'm painting fairly dry brush here now. And after this, it'll just need a coat of a darker brown over the top of it. So that's that bit done. So hopefully that lighter yellow's showing through that we put in before, and this burgundy red is showing through. So continuing on in the same theme. Can keep that from moving. Not so much, I don't know, I'm wanting to shift your sight to there, so I'm not going to put as much detail in on this side here. I'm just going to let you realise that that's the same as that. So let's put that dark brown in. So I'm going to get some blue, get some brown, and there it is. A little teeny weeny bit more. There you go. And with this I'm going to go pretty straightforward and go this one. We've just got to be a bit more careful. This is where we start getting the shadow coming in. All that area is dark. And these are a little bit like lines. Because I do want that burgundy to show through. I think that for the table is, apart from this area, maybe I might darken up, but apart from that, possibly done that. But let's just see if we can get some bits of line working like that. And maybe here, but not too much. There you go, that's the table that you can see done. We might pop back now and pick up as much of the bits of blue that we can get from there, and again go over this area, especially that area. Let's get rid of some of these hard edges. And that'll serve as the beginnings of your shadow. And that will need shadowing. That there. It's difficult to see a shadow in highly reflective wood. I'm going to try and indicate it there. So again, I'll just go over that a little bit more. And teeny bit of blue. Mute it out a little bit so it's not absolutely, that's a bit strong. Let's see how I feel once it's covered over a little bit. We'll dab a little bit out of that. And again, it's one of them things that I don't want to overdo. And yeah, it's still remained white and light, but it has now got a bit of character in it. So again, I'm going to leave this for a bit to dry, and then we'll move on to the vase and the cat, which is the main feature of the painting. and maybe clearing up other bits as well. Let's now block in our two main feature points as cat and as vase or whatever this is. So I'll start with a cat because that's in the more of the distance, because I like to work from back towards the front. But this is just the blocking in section, so the cat basically is grey, isn't it? So let's get some of this grey here. Mix a little bit more grey up. There we go. See if I can dab it off because I wanted it a little bit dry. There's a little bit of greyiness there. I'm trying not to. I'm going to see if I can leave things a little bit white at certain areas. And this will be like a first coat, as it were, of colour. And you can build this up and build it up as much as you want. And it's semi-dry brush, this. Take a little bit there. A bit of a fluffy bit there. Gets a bit dark in that bit. And that roughly is his first layer for the cat. It's going to have several more, obviously. I just want to make sure that we've not got too many hard edges on it. So I'm going to put more water in certain areas. And that's that lightly blocked in. We'll keep going over that. Now let's focus his attention on our foreground item, which is a reddy colour. Now, to start with, I'm going to have it really weak, and I'm going to make it more pink stroke, a very light kind of colour, like a peachy light. And that's the first colour I'm going to put on it. I'm going to leave a little bit of white at the top, not much. Right, and that comes down to about there. And then I'm going to progressively, at that stage, add another layer of strength in there. And then this is where we start getting deeper and darker. Like that. Let that blend in a bit, and then yet another strengthening of the colour with a little bit of blue gone over there. Didn't want to do that, but and then progressively adding a bit more blue until you get to the. I'm going to have to alter that now because it's gone over. Make that like that. Don't look quite right, that, but we're not looking for absolute perfection. And at the very bottom. It can be almost and just to show that it's like a thing that has various levels of colour in it. You can get some water and we'll see how that goes, and I'm going to soften that up a bit. This paper is very responsive. It really does let you do an awful lot of stuff to it. I'm going to, at this top end, I might take a little bit here and there off like that. And for the moment, that's that done and sorted. What I will do while we've got some of that dark colour there is, it might be a bit dark, this. It could very well be. But we can always water that down. Like that. Let's see if I can neutralise that a little bit. I don't want that too strong. There you go. And in a similar vein, we'll get this area very careful around there because that's still wet, and again careful there because that's still wet, so I'm not going to touch that, and just bring that out like that, blend in a bit. One area we can do and add a little bit more to is this dark area. That's going to be very dark when we're completely finished. While we've got some of this red, there's these candles here. They have a tiny bit of red in them, so let's indicate that. Need a little bit more red, that. And another one there. And it's resting on a plate that's like blue. So I'm just going to indicate that by doing that. And I don't want to make them too much of an important feature. So although they're in the foreground, I'm not going to be making a big thing about it. Got a little bit of a shadow there, and that's got a shadow coming off it. The tops of those are like a white, but we'll leave that for now, and we're just going to let the painting settle for a bit. So we'll be back when it's all dry. We'll take a look at the cat's face now. It's an important feature, but we don't want to over detail it because it's such a small area, so it has to have the detail in context with how much area it's taking up in the picture itself, and we don't want it to over dominate. So tricky, but if we get this right, this will nail the painting. So I'm going to again, it's mixing up some grey. The vast majority of this painting is fairly muted and grey. That's one of the reasons why I looked at it and thought, yeah, this would be a nice painting. So first thing I want to do is get its mouth in. Now that's not too hard, because literally it's almost like a letter A. The next thing is the top of the eyelid, like that, and that's almost like a chevron. Now I'm going to get a little bit of that pink that I've got there. I'm going to do its nose, which is a little triangle. But I want that to be light because I'm going to go back in with even further detail in a bit. But the next thing to do is put the eye in, and I'm just mixing up a colour like that, and then all of that there I'm going to make blue. You probably can't see this, but and obviously once that's dried, and it's got to be fully dry, I'll put another black dot in there to complete the eye. But that's like in final bits of detailing. Now I'm making a little bit of an executive decision here, and this bit here around the ear, I'm going to slightly pinkify that. Although it looks dark at the moment, when it's dry that will go a pinky colour, hopefully. Famous last words. And now it's just a matter of doing areas of fluffy fur, and I'm just gonna like flick, if I can get a colour that's dark enough to see over the grey I've already put on it, that's better. So it's like line work and then areas of dense blobby fluffiness like that. And you can see little bits of hair there, and you can tell I'm going into detail mode because I'm going quiet. Let's see if I can get something a bit darker. There's the odd bit now and again where it is quite dark. Well, I'm just going to leave that for a bit, and move down a little bit to the chest area, and that's mainly very fluffy. Again, I'm going to prep up some more. I'm going to do a dark brown. So we've got a burnt umber and a ultramarine blue. I'm going to make my brush right spriggy like that, and round this area I'm going to go and alter the angle every so often. Use different techniques as well, so it don't become boring. And if you can implement other colours subtly, then do so. I'm getting that. I'm going to continue that area there, and I really want that to be quite dark, probably the darkest area of the painting, that, and give that a little bit of definition there, and that also. So that's that bit done. Try and get some more fluffiness there. And incorporate some of that colour into the head to make sure that that's not some completely separate thing. It's always good to connect in watercolours various areas to things. It gives the picture a cohesive feel. Right, and really one of the last things I want to do with this is the really dark striping. It's not very highly striped, but it has got areas when you look at it that is very stripy, especially on the legs, for example. There's little bits here, and that again, like I keep saying, that's going to be dark. I'm going to get the pause in. And there's various little bits that look as though they're almost stripes, but they may not be. There's an area on the leg there that's quite stripy. Let me define that a bit better. But all we need to do now is I'm going to get a bit more brown and add that to there. And there's certain areas like the eye, for example, and round the nose, and a teeny bit there. And that roughly is the cat done. Now what we need to do is, while I've got this, I'm going to make it ever so slightly darker. I've got this particular brush which is really good for doing what I'm doing now. Just getting the foliage on this plant or whatever it is. Whether it's an actual living plant, I don't know, or one of those decorative things you can get from a home improvement shop. Looks like one of those things. And that like that. So that's that. What I might do is one of the last few things to do, and that's it. I'm going to go back and do this background a little bit so it sits back a bit more. And this side as well, like that, a bit darker. And one or two other minor details. And the only other thing to do, it's whiskers and things like that. Now what I'm going to do for that is use one of these little pots of gouache that I've got, and I'm hoping that that's going to be dark enough for me to be able to see that. So I'm going to mix it up and get a good dollop of gouache on it. And this, by the way, is it's one I've made myself, but it's basically the same as like a bleached titanium. It's like an off-white. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, it's okay, that. Don't want to be doing too many though. There's one or two little bits there. At this side you can't see it because it's too light, but we've got some indication of them there. So really I don't want to be doing any more with it. Apart from maybe I might just put a tiny little dot there. You can barely see it, you won't be able to see it probably, but looking at the actual image itself up close, you can see it quite clearly. One last little bit in. This leafage stuff and twigs seems to have like a white stuff all over it, so I'm going to just indicate that by adding that like that. It's almost as though it's been sprayed with some white acrylic. And that, I will say, is basically done. So thank you for coming and having a bit of time with me. I know it's been a bit of a long one, but hopefully we've learnt a little bit more about how to go about watercolour painting, and that is the key element really, isn't it? So thank you for your time. Please click the thumbs up button because that helps me an awful lot, and if you're here for the first time, please click the subscribe. None of those cost you anything, and it helps us tremendously with getting these things done, these paintings and these videos that we have to put together. So thank you and goodbye for now.